Hello, friends. Hello, friends. A tradition unlike any other.
Oh, my goodness. In your life, have you seen anything like that?
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer.
Mashed potato!
Here it comes.
This is the 19th tee. Kieran Marsh, Nathan Drudy back with you. Drew, it's a special episode tonight. And I'll acknowledge up front, we've been promoting this for some time. Maybe the longest runway of any episode ever recorded. A few other things have dropped in while we've been formulating our thoughts around this episode, but probably been fortuitous for you because I understand you've not long drawn a line underneath your teams for tonight's State of Origin of Golf episode. Is that correct?
Yeah, you could say that it was completed less than an hour ago. Okay, so it's been a busy time as we get ready for the State of Origin, as they say.
You've probably ruminated over your time, and knowing you've probably picked and repicked a number of times. There's been some shifting of the magnets. I'm more of a pick and stick kind of guy. Just stick to your convictions. This is what your gut feels, and we'll go with it. But I think that's right on brand for both of us as it relates to this podcast. So for the benefit of listeners, this is obviously inspired by the NRL State of Origin series that's currently underway. We are heading into the third and final game, Queensland having already sewn up the 2023 series and back-to-back series victories in doing so. First game winning down Adelaide, second at Suncorp Stadium. We're heading to Sydney to see if the Blues can save some face. They've made a raft of changes. As you'd expect, Queensland just two, which are forced via injury and suspension for the final game. So that's what the NRL State of Origin picture looks like. What we thought was we'd have a bit of fun in terms of golf and pick a 4-ball for each state. But that was really, I think, the criteria that we put around this. There wasn't going to be too prescriptive. I think the only other thing worth flagging before we get into our teams is that we tried to make the eligibility criteria as black and white as humanly possible because the NRL are almost the inverse. It's grey. It leads to players like Greg Inglis from Casino in Northern New South Wales having one of the all-time great careers for Queensland. And that's because they go off where you play your first senior footy or junior footy or junior rep or senior. This kind of proves my point. It's unclear and therefore leads to contentious selection. So we've said, no, it's the state in which these players were born.
Yes.
Will be the state that they represent.
Yes.
As part of our State of Origin football. We have gone with, I think this is the only other thing important to point out. We've selected teams from Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia, South Australia, and at the risk of alienating our audiences in the other states and territories, we've selected an allies,
yes,
which you could select from the Northern Territory, the Australian Capital Territory, or our good friends in Tasmania. So those are the teams. They are 4 balls. No other conditions or criteria other than the state in which the player was born. Trudes, I think it's probably appropriate we start in Queensland because I think it would be fair to say that our experience here is that a Queensland B side or Queensland A side, for want of a better term, would probably give most other states a run for their money.
Correct.
Given the depth in Queensland golf.
Yeah.
But I also think there's going to be some surprises here of players who are not selected here and are selected for other states based on what were commonly held views, mine included, of where those players were born.
Yes.
So why don't you lead us off with your Queensland football?
Yes. So, yeah, it's a really good point because you're going to hear some names here that people are going to think, what the hell? And it's all factual. It's where they were born. So obviously you could pick male or female, dead or alive. We're just picking a 4-ball.
Picking a 4-ball.
So I will commence this. I've got my pages of notes here. Queensland was actually one of the last ones that I done. So first cab off the rank, the greatest Australian player to ever play the game. Born in Ayr, Queensland, 1974, 56 pro wins, 7 times majors, inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame 2005, Curry Webb. In. I'm not
Correct.
Gonna,
Now-
I'm not going to go on War and Peace about people that are quite obvious. Maybe in some of the other ones we might have to have a bit of discussion.
Sure. So, and to be very clear, our intention as we roll through these teams is to not go a pick at a time. It's to go our picks of 4. But I think I will interject there only to say that my Queensland team, the first selection in my Queensland team reflects yours. It was the only name that should have been taken first, and Curry Webb was first on my list for Queensland.
Well done. 3 times LPGA Tour money winner, LPGA Player of the Year. Just the GOAT. Jedward GOAT. Second player on my Queensland team. 88 pro wins. Born in Mount Isa, Queensland, 1955. Mr. Greg Norman. Number 1 for 331 weeks. Much maligned. Greg Norman. 2-time Open Championship winner, 1986, 1993. Finished second at all other majors. 2001 inductee into the World Golf Hall of Fame. 6-time Order of Merit winner in Australia. And 3 times PGA Tour leading money winner. Undeniably one of the greatest Australian golfers to ever play. Arguably our best men's player. I mean, if some people might want to sit on that fence, but Greg Norman is my second pick. Marshy. Initial reactions. Are we going to do this? Initial quick reactions? I don't know.
I think I'll save it.
Great. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Pick number 3. This is where, see, I found Queensland very difficult to pick. We've gone with the hard one first up. Player number 3, 18 pro wins, 13 on the PGA Tour, 2015 PGA Championship winner from Bow Desert, Queensland, Jason Day. 2016 Players Champ, T4 at the Open, second at the Masters, second in many, many tournaments, 4 times President Cup rep, $54 million won on the PGA Tour, if you don't mind, Marshy. It's not a bad pick.
And I think also noteworthy to mention our most recent Australian winner on the PGA Tour.
There you
as
go.
well. Still in a decent touch of form. I will only interject to say that Jason Day was my second selection
Excellent.
on Curry Webb.
I've got to write this down because I'm going to build the graphics afterwards as well. So
I can send it to you. It's okay. Don't stress about writing it down. It's fine.
last pick, so this was really difficult for me. This 4th pick, I had the 2 of them. I had a pros and cons list.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I've gone with, if I was to put this team out on the course, this is how I split.
Absolutely.
If I was to put this team out on the course, this bloke would have the biggest dog in any fight. Our most recent major champion, the winner of the Open Championship last year, 10 pro wins, 6 on the PGA Tour, from Brisbane, Queensland, born in 1993, the Players Championship winner from 2022, Cameron Smith.
Pride of one teamer.
So they are my
Excellent.
4: Curry Webb, Greg Norman, Jason Day, Cameron Smith. Honourable mention, if I can. Is that okay? Can I throw?
Yeah.
it
So I probably should have also flagged. I have selected, and this is just a cop out, really here for me. But
That's fine.
I've selected a series of alternates as well. It's really just my honourable mentions.
Sure.
So they are, in team golf terms or pennants terms, they're my alternates.
Mhm.
But this is just my way of being able to do honourable mentions. So yes, play on. I encourage it.
I had heaps, right? But I've just whittled it down. And the only one when I really got down to the pros and cons list and had them all laid out in Queensland that I feel really quite bad about is actually the only one of the people I think maybe that in any of this list that has appeared on this show. And that's Ian Baker Finch. So Finchy unfortunately misses out for me. But nonetheless, a major champion and a lovely guy to boot. So that's my team. Curry Webb, Greg Norman, Jason Day, Cameron Smith. Honourable.
Absolutely.
All you. Queensland.
Look, I think I will just say that Finchy topped also my alternates.
Okay.
So
right. Good to know that we're on the same.
Yeah, it's a tough break for Finchy. He hasn't cracked my 4, but my 4 is not the same as yours.
Great.
It only Well, it only has one primary difference. So I also have Kari Webb. I also have Jason Day.
Yep.
And I also have Cameron Smith.
Great.
Smith was the third player I selected. So I don't need to relitigate all the facts and figures that you've already provided. I do want to inverse this and head down to my other alternates because it's a list I think worth mentioning. So outside of Ian Baker Finch, I'd also had in my alternates Wayne Grady, phenomenal player in his own right. Rod Pampling, also an exceptional player, and played as Catherine Hull. She's now Catherine Kirk, an exceptional player in her own right. So I just wanted to mention those three because I think that, as I said, like I'd be phenomenally happy if I rolled out a four wall of Baker Finch, Grady, Pampling, and Hull. Now Kirk.
Yes.
And I'd honestly, I'd line that up against most of the other teams I'm going to name this evening. So Queensland is exceptionally deep as it relates to golf. Now, Greg Norman's not my team. Just going to get right out in front of this. Now, I don't dispute any of the things that you had said from a numbers perspective. But I kind of fall back to what you've just said before. I'm putting this team out there, right? They've got to go and compete. They've got to win, right? Yes. They've got to go, and particularly because I've got a soft spot, obviously, for Queensland. I want this team to win of all the teams that I've named.
Okay.
Greg's a divisive figure in the locker room. Probably not for Cameron Smith because he's fronted him $150 million.
Yeah.
But particularly for my number one player, Kari Webb, who's been one of the most vehement critics of live golf, particularly in relation to Saudi Arabia's treatment of women. And I just don't need that in my locker room. Okay. So, and with all due respect to Greg, I'm probably going to side with Kari Webb. Okay. So I'm going to put my faith in who Kari wants there. I've also, I won't lie, I've got a little bit of a question mark over Greg's ability to perform under pressure as it relates to coming down the stretch in team golf. And this is not a President's Cup with 12 people. It's a team of 4. It's hard to hide a player on a team of 4.
Agreed.
Greg's shown himself to be susceptible to pressure cooker moments. So, look, it's going to be unpopular. I'm expecting people to come from the absolute rafters for me for not having Greg Norman in my team. Most likely it'll be the live bots getting into me about, oh, yeah, good to see you, dickhead. But I'm comfortable. So, who is my fourth player? I hear you ask.
Please.
Well, Drudes, 48 tournament victories in his illustrious career. No majors, unfortunately. A highest finish of a tie for third in the 1948 British Open. He was a tour de force on the European circuit post-World War. First toured in 1946 at the age of 32. He won 13 European tournaments between 1946 and 1948. 13 in 2 years, posting 3 top 6 finishes at the British Open. He is Norman von Nida, who not only a great player in his own right, but often referred to as a godfather of the swing. So acted as a coach to many of the great young Queensland players who came through the system that we know these days as well. So made, a contribution as a player, contribution as a coach. He's an old head in this team, very old at this rate. Rest in peace, Norman. I think I'm really comfortable with Norman von Nida as my fourth for the Queensland team.
So here's where things are going to start to fall apart.
Yeah.
So on his Wikipedia page, he was born in Strathfield, New South Wales. So
not sure about that.
Grew up in Brisbane though. So this is the difficulty of this. Don't know. Anyway, I'll give you Norman von Nida. You can have him.
I'm going to need. I'm going to need a second.
He was in my honourable mentions for New South Wales. I'll give that one. So there you go.
That's funny. Look, I'm going to need a second source outside of Wikipedia. Anyone could have edited that, but look, I take your point. I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with where he sits on my list in Queensland.
Okay. Sounds good.
He's my 4.
Okay. Well, seeing as I took out 3 of your picks, give me your allies. I'm fascinated for this one. Give me your allies.
Yeah, right.
Because shit, this was hard.
This is difficult.
Okay.
This I won't lie to you. This is difficult. I'm going to lead off with when I say genuine, I'm not suggesting that others are more than not, but a genuine ally. Matty Goggin is in my allies list.
Bingo. Pick number 1 for
the Pride of Tasmania. So obviously no major victories. A 9-time tour winner, or 9 professional victories from what I gathered in my research. I believe a couple of wins on the Corn Ferry Tour as part of that, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, he splits a bit of time now over in the States as well. He's not a permanent resident of Tasmania, but he spends his time between the United States and Tassie, and of course now is the brains behind the operation that is 7 Mile Beach and soon to be 5 Mile Beach. 2 pieces of property that promise to be potentially some of the best in the Southern Hemisphere. So Matty Goggin is my man.
Nice.
Leading off the Allies. At number 4, so this is interesting, and probably not a name I'm anticipating on your list because he only had 3 victories in his career. But I think this is
3 times winner.
Okay, well, it's the significance, I think, more than anything else, of the victories. It's Clyde Pearce.
Okay.
Not on your list?
No, not on my list. No.
Let me tell you a little bit about Clyde Pearce, the first native-born winner of the Australian Open. Clyde Pearce was a scratch marker in his hometown of Hobart by the age of 15. He reached 4 straight Australian amateur finals between 1906 and 1909, claiming the Open and amateur double in 1908 at just 20 years of age. So busy at his brother's sheep farm that he hadn't picked up a club all year until he arrived in Sydney 3 weeks prior to the Open in 1908. He toured Britain and Ireland in 1911, won a tournament in Peterhead years later compared to the great Harold Hilton, given their rare ability to create backspin on approach shots. By 1912, golf was no longer his priority after buying a farm near Pingilly, south of Perth. So he's made them over to WA. However, he did win the inaugural WA Open. Pearce signed up for the war just days after the initial landing in Gallipoli, spent a month there, but Lieutenant Pearce unfortunately lost his life during the Battle of, and I'm going to butcher this, Messines, where 7,000 Australians tragically perished. So not necessarily in here by virtue of volumes of victory, but I think the significance of when he was blazing a trail for Australian golf, Clyde Pearce is on my Allies team.
Nice. Well done. That's a good pick. I like that.
Peter Senior. Now, this is probably the one that I think you might blow your stack at me about, because I don't know if you can allow me to gaff Peter Senior. Peter Senior spent most of his time growing up in Queensland.
Go on.
He did. Now, and I'll put my hand up and I'll accept that. But based on my research, he was born in Singapore.
Correct.
Based on my research. Now, yes, I admit Singapore was not within the original constraints of our conversation.
Because it's not within the constraints of the country, Marshy. Can we just be first and foremost?
Druids, I'm telling you, the bloke's won 34 times in his career. Top 5 at a British Open, highest world golf ranking of 23rd. Those 34 wins don't even include Australian senior titles. It's in the name, Peter Senior. He's too good not to be nowhere, and I can't have had him in Queensland. So I've roped him into the Allies. That's what I'm saying. 26 tournaments across 5 decades, most famously won the Australian Open, PGA, and Australian Masters, all after turning 50. His maiden title came as a teenager at the 1979 South Australian Open. The last was as a 56-year-old veteran at the 2015 Australian Masters. Shit, that was back when we used to actually have an Australian Masters at Huntingdale. So Peter Senior is in my Allies team. Have I stretched the rules somewhat? Maybe. Do I think it's valid? Absolutely, because he had to be in someone's team. It would have been a disgrace not to have him as part of this.
All I'm saying is this within the spirit of cricket, Marshy?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if it's yours to invoke the spirit of cricket, but sure, play on. No worries about it.
Last one. Come on, hit me with your Allies, your team. I'm keen.
38 professional victories across his career, 2 major victories. The PGA Championship in 1979 and the 1981 US Open, a highest world golf ranking of 28th in the world. It was in the inaugural ranking year in 1986. It is David Graham is his name. So I'm just reading through here. Hailed for playing one of the finest rounds of major championship history, hitting all 18 greens in a 67 to win the US Open at Merion. That's no mean feat. That's an absolute prick of a golf course. What's he done here? Claimed his first major at the 1979 PGA Championship when he beat Ben Crenshaw in a playoff, tied for third at the 85 British Open, won 16 top 10 results in majors across his entire career, of course, including those 2 victories, as I said. Made cuts in 20 consecutive majors between 1979 and 1984. Apart from his 8 victories on the PGA Tour, he triumphed at the 1976 World Match Play, trounced a star-studded field doing the 77 Australian Open when Kerry Packer recruited the best Americans to play over here. His long list of incredible victories, David Graham, into my Allies team.
Okay. Again, see, this is where it's so ridiculous. You look online. David Graham is from Tasmania, Australia. David Graham was born in Windsor, New South Wales. I mean, it's all over the shop.
I think.
So anyway, it's fine. I'll absolutely give you David Graham, 100%.
Yeah,
he's not in my
probably
team
not
because
as
I
much.
just went like. But anyway, I'll give you.
Well, can I just say I'm fascinated to hear who your other 3 players outside of Matt Goggin are, because for the life of me, I mean, I've put Peter Senior born in Singapore, so the Allies was tough.
It was very tough, very tough. And look, I've kind of taken I've kind of taken a bit of liberty out of your book here as well, because I've taken someone that we've had on this show. Actually, I lied. I've taken Pikey here because I couldn't remember if it was Darwin or Karratha where he was born. I hedged my bets, and I'm leaning towards 99% born in Karratha now that I finalised this on the show. So
spent a lot of time in Darwin.
Yeah,
I think it
so
plays.
I'm taking
The criteria is becoming looser the further we get into this podcast. So.
It's just going to become pick 4 Australian players, or in your case, pick players who were born internationally and lived in Australia.
Funnily enough, do you know he was my only alternate for the Allies? So there you go.
There you go. Pikey, 3-time winner on the PGA Tour of Australia, 5th on the Order of Merit. Then it got real difficult for me. So I've gone 4. I've gone right back into the archives here, Marshy. Born in Bellerive, Tasmania, 1905. Man by the name of Len Nettlefold, an 18-time winner in Australia and Tasmania, a prolific golfer in Tasmania, particularly 18-time winner in Australia and Tasmania. Similarly, I have gone with a man born in Adelaide, South Australia, 1928. Was on the inaugural team of the Eisenhower Trophy that actually won in 1958. A 9 times winner in Australia, including the 1952 Australian Amateur, a 15-time interstate rep for South Australia. His name was Bob Stevens. So that is my team. Goggin, Nettlefold, Pike, and Bob Stevens. Very difficult. So I've kind of taken a couple of liberties there. But yeah, I've tried my best. I believe Bob Stevens did a lot of growing up in other states as well. Although, you know, we're talking about people that are very, very old here, so this could be a little shaky. But we'll do our best.
It's interesting. I'm just looking at. We've always got 6 teams, and I'd suggest there's no real way to do everyone playing in the first round. So I'd imagine we probably seed our teams, and I'd suggest probably looking at, well, at least my team, I'd say Queensland take the top seed and maybe Victoria. Either way, I don't think the Allies are getting past the first round.
Yeah.
Because the top 2 seeds are probably sitting the first round, and, you know, we play 3 through 6 and the Allies aren't getting past. As due respect, phenomenal players in their own right, but the Allies was difficult.
It's amazing that we said at the top of the show, we went very black and white about where you were born, and we're 2 teams in, and we've
got a player from Singapore.
Fallen straight into the actual state of origin rules and just given it our best go. Anyway,
good stuff.
Where do you want to go?
Where are we going?
I don't know. You pick. I picked the Allies, so you can pick the next one.
Let's go to South Australia, because I think for me, this one, I'd say 2 things. Most surprises and an unexpectedly strong squad would be how I'd phrase South Australia. Why don't I let off with the Allies? Why don't you lead us off with South Australia?
Okay. Number one seed, very hard to beat here. Born in 1980 in Adelaide, South Australia. This may surprise a few people. 31 professional wins worldwide, including the 2013 Masters. Adam Scott. It takes my number one spot in the South Australian
this
team.
knocked me off my seat because he was number 2 behind Kari Webb in my Queensland team originally, until you dropped a little bombshell and he was in fact born in the city of Churches. So
Yes.
yeah, undisputed number 1 for me as well. Scotty will lead the South Australians.
Number 2, born in 1977 in Adelaide, South Australia, 12 professional wins worldwide, including the 2006 US Open. Jeff Ogilvy is number 2. So I would
Rinse and
suggest-
repeat all my comments from Adam Scott. Jeff Ogilvy is also the second player on my team.
Again, like I was learning. I mean, it was a good exploration of golfers. 30 million in prize money as well on the PGA Tour, if you don't mind, Marshy.
Has he really?
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Highest rank of number 3 in the world in 2008. Third
Still
player.
getting invitations to play.
Yeah.
Yep. Third player.
Third player for me, born in North Adelaide, South Australia in 1930.
Okay, here we go. Right.
And an elite amateur. One of the best amateurs that Australia has ever produced was the Low-Am at the 1950, 52, 55 and 57 Australian Opens. The Low-Am at the 54 Open Championship. Won the Australian amateur in 1954, beating his brother, and was part of the 1958 Eisenhower Trophy team that beat the USA. Peter Toogood gets the nod at my 3 spot.
Okay, interesting.
So on you, Pete, you're in. Last pick for me. Got a little bit tough here, but I have gone. I said we didn't have any of these players on the show, but this is actually a third player that's been on the show here. Born in Adelaide, South Australia, 1985, pro wins worldwide, including the 2017 and 2020 Hong Kong Opens on the European Tour, 4-time Asian Tour winner, and T40 best finish in a major at the US Open. Wade Ormsby gets my nod at 4. That's my.
He's in my team,
Well
and will probably be playing a lot more than he has been playing recently as an alternate on the Live Tour. So, yeah, look, Scott, Ogilvy, Ormsby, all in my team. My fourth, a little different.
Great.
Peter Toogood's a great pick from you, though.
Thank you.
My fourth, she won 6 times across her career that spanned both here in Australasia and also on the LPGA. She's actually got the distinction of being a legend of the LPGA, a qualified pharmacist turned professional golfer. She came to the United States owning an impressive amateur resume. She won the 1978 New Zealand Amateur, 1980 Belgian Amateur. Additionally, she was runner-up at the 1977 Australian Amateur and 1980 Canadian Amateur. Turned professional in 81, joined the LPGA in July of 81. She won the JC Penney Mixed Team Classic with Steve Jones in 87, and she won the Farmore Classic at Inverary on the LPGA in 1990. She owns 3 victories here at home as well, the 92 and 1996 Australian Ladies Masters and the 1997 Women's Australian Open. Retired from the LPGA in 2004, one of the original founding members of the LPGA Legends Tour as well. It's Jane Crafter is her name.
Excellent. I love that.
Good on you, Jane.
I love that pick.
It's also making me a little sad, kind of looking back at how many events we used to have here. Like we had an Australian Ladies Masters, we had a Women's Australian Open. We just heard about the Australian Masters at Huntingdale in 2015. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in that. Jane Crafter, great
Nice.
pick, and I'm really happy to have her on my South Australian side.
Love it. I really like it. Give me your Victorian team.
Just to confirm, unfortunately, no allies. Alternates for me, South Australia. I didn't have.
No alternates. I mean, I
yeah.
probably could have taken Bob Stevens as an alternate for South Australia because I'm, born in South Australia, but I believe did a lot of growing up and in other states. But anyway,
Play
we
on.
push on. Victoria.
Where am I
hit
going?
me. Victoria.
Yeah,
hit me.
look, I think it would be pretty silly, and I don't want to speak for you.
Mhm.
I think it would be pretty silly not to start anywhere other than a man who won 102 times across his professional career. 5 British Opens,
Yes.
1954, 1955, 1956, 3 in a row, 1958, and the 7-year gap to his last in 1965.
Yes.
He is, I think, often and probably deservedly referred to as the father of Australian golf. It's Peter Thompson.
Yes. I love it. Great pick. He was my very
Was
first
my excellent. I'm glad we're on the same page.
pick. AO
Now,
as
my
well, if you
second-
don't mind, Marshy. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Order of Australia. That is my bad. I should give him his dues.
Thank you.
My second selection, 17 tournament victories, tied for second at the 2002 British Open, was his best finish in a major, highest world golf ranking of 8th in the world. 23 seasons on the PGA Tour. He accumulated 9 tour titles, 5 President Cup appearances, $29.82 million US in prize money. His triumph at the Greenbrier Classic in 2010 included a final round 59 that led to him being crowned the PGA Tour Comeback Player of the Year. And it all started, Drudes, on a little dairy farm near Kahuna in the Murray River.
Yep.
Stuart Appleby.
Bang. My second pick as well. Well done.
Wonderful. How good's Victoria turning out?
One.
Now, this is where it gets difficult because there are so many players here. Like, again, my Vic A side, I'd happily put out against a lot of teams.
Yeah.
But for me, it come down to fit, come down to characters, and this is one person. I wouldn't say I'd forgotten about him, but he was living in the deep, dark recesses of my memory, and it was really nice to spend a bit of time going down memory lane and reminiscing. So 23 tournament victories, T3 at the 1993 US Open was his best finish at a major. Highest ranking of 13th in the world. Your fist pumping I can see in the little drop box in the corner of my screen. So I think we may have the same player. He ruled Australian pro golf in the 1990s, one of the longest hitters on tour at the time, 3-time President's Cup representative, including the International's lone success at Royal Melbourne in 1998, 12 individual wins on home soil, including the Australian Open, the Australian PGA, and the Australian Masters, 3 times, if you don't mind. It is Popeye Craig Parry.
Awesome. I love it. Bang on. That's
Love
exactly who I went as well. So good.
Absolutely love that. Produced, I should say as well, one of the most miraculous shots in memory from Australia on the PGA Tour, holding out from the fairway to win the 2004 Ford Championship at Doral during a playoff.
I'd love to get him on the show. I reckon it'd be a great chat. I had the privilege of listening to him at President's Cup dinner in 2019 and was very funny. Yeah.
Craig Parry. So, sorry, just to confirm, he's on your team?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Shit,
Okay.
yeah. He's in at the 4
Okay.
spot, but, you know.
So this is interesting for me because I think for me, you're going to go one of 2 ways here. You're either going to go the way that I've gone or go with one of my alternates. Because I think there's a guy who's desperately unlucky not to be in my team, but I'll get to him in a moment.
All right.
The 4th player on my team is a 12-time winner professionally around the world. Okay, here we go. I reckon you've gone in a different direction. Good to hear. T2 at the British Open in 2015 is his best major finish, highest world ranking of 12th in the world. He turned pro in 2005, won twice on the Von Nider Tour, if you don't mind. Norman Von Nider, a little throwback there to my Queensland team, topped the money list. American breakthrough came at the 2008 WMB Golf Classic, where his 11-shot victory tied the record for the largest winning margin on the now Corn Ferry Tour. Started his rookie season on the PGA Tour in 2009, achieving the first of 5 PGA titles in 2012 and made the first of 4 President Cup appearances in 2013. He is the boy from the Bool, Warrnambool's Mark Leishman,
Lovely.
number 4 on
Great
mine.
pick. Great pick.
So I'm going to give 3. I've got 4 alternates.
Go for it. Hit
Okay.
me.
I'm going to give 3 here because I reckon the name I'm going to leave out is the person you've actually selected it for.
Okay.
I'll see how good I'm going.
So
Lucas Herbert.
Leash is an honourable mention for me. Sorry, by the way.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Lucas Herbert's an honourable mention and an alternate for me for Victoria.
Yeah.
Margie Masters
Yeah.
and Aaron Badley are all alternates for me
Who's
in
your
Victoria.
fourth
There's another name there. Well, I want to see if it's the same person who I think you actually have picked.
Okay. The other one the other honourable mention that you didn't mention at all is Robert Allenby. Bobby.
Okay, that's who I thought.
Bobby
That's who I thought you picked. So there you go. That's not. Well, he was the 4th alternate that I had.
Yeah. Great career, Bobby Allenby.
Not so great time in Hawaii, but that's fine.
Not so great time in Hawaii.
No,
So yes,
fascinated to know now who you picked here. Okay,
well, I love your team. So I've gone Thompson, Appleby, and Craig Parry as well. My fourth spot, 27 pro wins, 18 of which on the PGA Tour of Australia. Best finish was T7 at the 1978 Open Championship. 4 times the Order of Merit winner here in Australia, the 1969 Oz Am winner. 2-time World Cup rep, born in Melbourne, Victoria, 1948. Bob Shearer is who I've got.
Okay.
So I think 2 strong teams there. I'm pretty happy with both.
Really
of those.
strong.
Well
Really
done.
strong. I'll be happy to have Bob on my team.
Well
Can't
done.
leave Leash out, but Bob's a good pick.
Yes.
Okay, let's go, I think, to Western Australia, and we'll round it out with New South Wales. So Western Australia, you lead us off here.
All righty. This was actually quite a tricky one, I found.
Yeah, this is stacked team. This is stacked team.
This is sneaky good. Sneaky good team.
Completely agree.
All right, so first one, first cab off the rank for me. 69 worldwide professional wins, playing in an era of golf's golden age. Finished in the top 10 of majors 6 times, including a best finish of 4th at the 83 Open Championship, and won 2 Champions Tour majors, including the 1997 US Senior Open and 1999 The Tradition. Born in 1944 in Kalgoorlie, of all places, Graham Marsh is my pick at number 1.
Just missed mine, so I'll get out in front of that and say Graham Marsh is on the alternates for me.
He's on the alternates. Okay,
Yes.
good to know. At the 2 spot, well, I actually didn't put them in any order, to be honest. I just the ones that I whittled down and got in. At the 2 spots, a prolific player, a 2-time major champion, probably I would suggest very much strongly in your team. 2021 Evian Championship and the 2022 US Women's Open, born in Perth, 1996, Minjee Lee. It is in.
Absolutely. Also my second pick.
Lock. Number 3, or the third person that I've got written on this piece of paper, 43 professional wins worldwide.
Okay.
Best finish of T13 at the 1979 Open Championship, a 3-time Eisenhower Trophy representative and a World Cup representative in 1983. Born in Yelbeni, Western Australia in 1946, a staple of the game here in WA, Terry Gale at the 3.
9 green jackets at the Nedlands Masters, if you don't mind. He's on my alternates. He's Gailey.
Yeah.
So the original Gale Force.
The OG Gale Force. And the 4th one, also a major winner, the 2019 Women's PGA Champion, 10 professional wins, 5 amateur wins, represented Australia at the 2020 Olympics, born in 1996 in Perth, Hannah Green.
Big HG.
Round out my 4. My honourable mentions, very tough not to get some of these in. Nico Hearn is an honourable mention for me. I imagine he's probably in your team. Stephen Leaney as well
Yeah.
from Bunbury, and Kim Felton are my 3 honourable mentions. So over to
All very
you.
good. All very good. So let me just round back to confirm. Minjee Lee in my team.
Great.
Hannah Green in my team.
Great.
Graham Marsh, Terry Gale, both alternates
Great.
in my team.
Love it.
My other alternates, maybe the best Australian player ever to pick up a club lofted above 50 degrees. Brett Rumford
Yes.
is an alternate of my team.
Yes. I like that pick.
And my other alternate, my fourth alternate, is arguably the hottest Australian player right now, and that's Minwoo Lee.
I did
So-
put Minwoo in there, but on the grand scale of all that's been achieved, it was tough to sneak him into
Sure.
the 4. So
Sure.
all right,
So,
give me your 2 picks. I'm fascinated here.
so my 2 picks
there's a long
are two
list.
two names that you have rattled off.
Great.
I will start with because we seemingly like to with people we've had on this podcast.
Mhm.
So 5 tournament victories worldwide. T6th at the 2006 US Open, which of course was the tournament won by Jeff Ogilvy. Highest world golf ranking of 16th. Transformed himself into a consummate professional. 2 times President's Cup representative 2005, 2007. 9 seasons of the PGA Tour. He registered 23 top 10 results, accrued $7.5 million in prize money in the US. Captured the Australian PGA in 2006. But let me tell you what got him over the line
Okay.
in this team. And maybe something, I don't want to put words in your mouth, potentially something you overlooked.
Maybe.
But as it relates to this format, this is 4-ball, this is team golf. He is the only man in history
Yes.
to defeat Tiger Woods, not once, but twice
Mm-hmm.
in match play golf.
Yes.
He is Nick O'Hearn.
Yes. I love it. And, a connection, to my family as well. My uncle grew up playing against him. So maybe stiff to be left out of this, out of the team. But that's a great pick, Marshy. Love it.
And so my other selection, 16 worldwide tournament victories, second at the 2003 US Open. 22nd was the highest ranking he achieved worldwide. A gallant second place, Jim Furyk at Olympia Fields in the 2003 US Open. He fell 3 strokes shy. He was 4 clear of third place in his only major top 10. Won 4 European Tour titles, 2 Victorian Opens, and 9 times in his home state of Western Australia. His 6th WA Open, Druids, at the age of 48, 26 years after his first as an amateur. He is bookending, end-to-end, ruling Western Australian golf. Member of the international side that tied the 2003 President's Cup. It is Stephen Leaney.
Yes. From Bunbury as well, I believe, down south.
The Bunbury Bullet. So
Well done.
there you go. That's my WA side.
bloody strong team.
It
I
is.
reckon.
It's a really strong
both of them,
team.
both of them are very strong. So finish us
Happy
off
with
with New
that.
South Wales because this was a tricky one too.
Yeah, so let me run you through a few of my alternates first because I think might provide context.
Mhm.
This has the most alternates of any team.
Same.
So my alternates, Karen Lunn,
Yep. Also an alternate
Br-
for me.
Brett Ogle,
Okay.
Bruce Crampton,
Okay.
Jack Newton,
Also an alternate.
Peter Lonard,
Okay.
and Rachel Hetherington.
Okay.
All
Great.
alternates for me.
Love it.
So, in my team, leading us off could be one of the great characters ever in the history of Australian golf.
Mhm.
And honestly, I'd almost pick Greg and the Queensland team to have these two play against each other and walk 18 holes playing match play. 12 worldwide victories. He won the 1995 PGA Championship, highest world golf ranking of 3rd in the world, the first notable Australian golfer to pursue the PGA Tour via the American college system. He's an alum at the University of Houston. All 10 of his PGA Tour victories, 7th best all-time by an Australian, came in the 1990s. Won the first of 2 Players' Championships in 1991 and claimed the 1992 Australian Open during a rare appearance down in Australia. Secured his place in golf history with the famous victory at the 95 PGA Championship at one of our favourite courses, Druids, Riviera. Capped a watershed year by becoming just the 3rd Australian to receive the Varden Trophy for the tour's leading scoring average. Rose to a career high number 3 in 1997 after a second Players victory. Posted 6 top 3 results in majors, only winning 1, including a 4-way playoff loss at the 2002 British Open and a share of second at 2005 PGA. Played in the first of 4 editions of the President's Cup, including the 1998 triumph by the Internationals. Steve Elkington.
Bang. Love it. In my team.
In your team.
Yeah.
So where do we go next? Because there's so many directions, honestly. It could be anything.
Okay.
I'm going to go with my only, and this was hard because I think there was a number of women, as I've mentioned. I mentioned Karen Lunn, I mentioned Rachel Hetherington. I only ended up having one female on my New South Wales team, but she won 24 times around the world. 3 major victories.
Yes.
The 1981 Peter Jackson Classic, the 1982 LPGA Championship, and the 1983 US Women's Open. An absolute superstar of the game. 16 LPGA tournaments to go along with her 3 majors, finally receiving her due induction to the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2019. Her amateur career as well included 5 consecutive New South Wales schoolgirls titles and 3 New South Wales juniors. Upon turning pro in 73, she won the Australian Ladies Open before heading over to the LPGA Tour, where she was Rookie of the Year in 1974. 3 victories on the LPGA Tour in 81, including her first major, second major in 82, as I said, third in 83. Final LPGA victory came in 1987 when she won 3 titles in a season for the 3rd time in her career. Jan Stevenson, Druids.
Yes. Yep. Also in my team. It was the first one picked in New South Wales.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
We're going to go close to you.
Yeah. And
we haven't gone the same because you've mentioned one of yours in the honourable mentions. So
yeah, okay. I'm just going to put my hand up here. Made a somewhat embarrassing mistake.
Okay.
Which I've only just realised now.
Okay.
But I'm going to put my hand up. This is why it's good live radio, because we're not going to edit this out.
Okay.
My 3rd selection for New South Wales was actually also my 2nd selection for my Allies team, which I've just realised.
Clyde Pearce.
No, it was David Graham. Sorry, maybe I didn't read him in. And I know that you actually had an issue with that because you said born in, I believe, Windsor, New South Wales at the time, but grew up in Tasmania. And
well, which one would you like to pick him in? I'd suggest on paper it's probably easier to pick him in, to keep him in the Allies team and find another New South Wales from
100% keep him in the Allies team because I've got no one else. I'll be playing a 3-ball.
Okay.
So look, this is good radio on the run. I'm going to put, I tell you what, for balance, I'm going to put Rachel Hetherington into my team.
Okay.
Let me tell you a little bit about Rachel Hetherington because I think, in fairness, this is why we have alternate streets. She's been called up off the bench late. It's big for her. 12 tournament victories worldwide. She second outright the Women's British Open in 2004, tie for second at the Nabisco Championship, now the ANA Inspiration back in 2001. 4-time New South Wales Junior Champion. Won twice on the 1995 Ladies European Tour at the German and Spanish Opens, so a couple of national opens to her name. Became a star across 13 seasons between 1997 and 2009 on the LPGA Tour, during which she won 8 times and $5.73 million US in prize money. Also teamed with Kari Webb to win the Women's World Cup of Golf in 2000. So Rachel Hetherington, it's a great alternate.
Well done.
Good pick. Well done. That's fantastic.
Good thinking on the fly. All right. Give me who's in at your 4.
Yeah, this I think kind of speaks to my Clyde Pearce selection in the sense of not necessarily like I could have picked people on that alternate list ahead of him, but I think in terms of his significance for Australian golf, 18-time winner around the world.
Interesting.
His best major result was T3rd, but that actually equated to a semi-final back when the PGA Championship was a match play scenario. That was in 1930. Could play both left and right-handed. Not handed. Born in Sydney, left home at the age of 10 to work at a sheep station. Wrap that around you. He won the 1920 Australian Open with a 290 aggregate at the Australian Golf Club in Sydney, the first champion to break the 300 barrier, and it took 14 years for his score to be bettered. He won the New Zealand Open, New Zealand PGA in the same year. In 1921, he left for Europe and beat the great Harry Vardon in his first match and tied for 6th at the British Open. In 1923, he left for America, where he won 9 tournaments in 2 years on what would become the PGA Tour before joining Walter Hagen to play exhibition matches and give clinics. His 13 PGA Tour wins is the 5th best by any Australian all time, while his 16-stroke victory at the 1924 Corpus Christi Open shares the tour record for largest winning margin. It is Joe Kirkwood Sr.
Nice. Love it.
Who, of course, the Kirkwood Cup is named after, one of the most sought-after prizes in Australian golf modern day.
Yes. I like it. He's an honourable mention for me. So well done.
Play on. Okay, so after all that confusion, where do we actually land? I think we shared Elk and we shared Jan Stevenson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So I like your team. I'm just looking back here. Elkington, Stevenson, Hetherington, and Joe Kirkwood Sr. So I had Joe Kirkwood Sr. as an honourable mention. I also had your Queenslander Norman Von Nider as an honourable mention in his team. So, yes, as you mentioned, we've got 2. Steve Elkington, Jan Stevenson. Also for me, 45 pro wins worldwide, 14 on the PGA Tour. Best finish at a major was second at the 72 US Open and at the 73 and 75 PGA Championships and the 72 Masters. A 2 times Vardon Trophy winner. 5-time World Cup representative, 49 cuts from 56 majors, including 28 top 25s, if you don't mind. Bruce Crampton, who you mentioned was on your honourable mentions list. So
yeah,
we're going close there.
That's absurd.
It's an excellent career.
Like cuts, mate. The Vardon, like the scoring average to win that, like that's absurd.
Last one. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little surprised that you didn't mention this guy at all, because he's won
this could be embarrassing for me.
94 professional wins, including the 1960 Open Championship, inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2007, outstanding at the Open Championship from 1960 to 1969, finished in the top 10 7 times. It's Kel Nagle. Second at Open in 5, T15 at the Masters in the same year, and T20 at the PGA Champs in the same year. So, Kel Nagle gets the nod for me. He was the second one picked in my New South Wales side, but I've gone.
That's fair.
That's
a miss from me.
Gone retro there. So, but I love it.
That's a miss from me.
I really like where we've gone with all of our selections. I think we've got a lot of similarities, but that's good. We're on the same wavelength. I like it. So, well done.
I think some key differences as well. I like the differences in our, in particularly our Victorian team, having Leash in there for me. Mm-hmm. I'll take that. Obviously, there's a difference in our Queensland team because I wouldn't pick the Shark, but that will draw. I'd suggest the necessary criticisms as well. So, good exercise, Drew. Really enjoyed that. Yes. I hope it is of some entertainment and some benefit, probably some consternation. That's also what we like. We like generating a bit of debate. So we'll throw these teams up on the socials. Please, if you vehemently disagree, do not hesitate in sharing your thoughts and feedback via the comments. We'd love to see some alternatives, maybe some names we didn't and should have considered. So that'll probably do us full time. As they say in rugby league parlance. That's the State of Origin Golf edition for the 19th Tee podcast. Obviously up the Mighty Maroons. Let's make it 3-zip. Not many teams have done it in the history of State of Origin football proper. So it would be lovely to see especially down there in Sydney, to really rub their noses in it. But Druids, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Plenty coming, as we flagged earlier in the week. Of course, the US Women's Open from Pebble Beach next week. We're counting down to the Men's Open Championship at Royal Liverpool. Ron Chopper will be on the show in the coming weeks. Good friend of Australian golf more broadly. So plenty to be excited about coming up in the next couple of weeks. Thanks, Matt, as always.